For centuries, the profound teachings of the Buddha and the timeless insights of Zen masters have served as guiding lights, leading countless souls toward inner peace. These aren't just historical anecdotes, they are living transmissions, offering us a path to mindfulness, to boundless compassion, and to a profound understanding of life's intricate dance. They are tools, powerful, yet gentle, designed to quiet the incessant chatter of the mind and bring crystal clear clarity to the soul. So, take a deep breath, allow your thoughts to settle, like dust motes in a sunbeam. Prepare to embark on a journey through the wisdom of the ages. Let these stories of peace and enlightenment wash over you, helping you find stillness amidst life's inherent chaos. They hold secrets not only for ancient seekers but for every single one of us navigating the complexities of the 21st century. 1. The story of the empty boat, the illusion of intent. Have you ever found yourself consumed by anger, only to realize your fury was misdirected, aimed at an illusion? This story begins with a man who cherished solitude, finding profound joy in rowing his boat on a tranquil river. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in hues of gold, he would seek this quiet communion with nature. One particular evening, as he paddled gently, savoring the tranquility, he noticed another boat heading directly toward him. At first, he called out politely, "Be careful," but the boat held its course. He called again, his voice rising, "Look out, you're going to crash into me." Still, the boat continued its collision course. Now, truly angered, he began shouting, "Move aside. You fool, you're going to crash into me." Finally, as the two boats collided with a gentle thud, he was ready to unleash his frustration, his temper boiling over. But when he looked closely, his anger dissolved instantly. The boat was empty. There was no one inside. It was simply drifting, carried by the current. He sat there, feeling foolish for yelling at an empty boat. The lesson, the story of the empty boat, a classic Zen tale, is a profound reminder that much of our suffering stems not from external events themselves, but from our own interpretations and reactions to them. It speaks to the core Buddhist principle of non-attachment to ego. We often project intentions, malice, or negligence onto situations and people, when in reality, there might be no such intention. Think about the empty boats in your own life. How often do you react with anger, frustration, or resentment to situations that, upon closer inspection, have no actual harm intended? Perhaps a driver cuts you off without realizing, or a colleague's oversight seems like a personal slight. This story teaches us the power of releasing the ego and not taking things personally. When we can see the empty boats for what they truly are, circumstances simply drifting by, without malicious intent, we can let go of unnecessary emotional baggage. This allows us to navigate the river of life with greater calm, clarity, and inner peace, unburdened by self-imposed suffering. This isn't about excusing harmful actions, but about understanding where our own suffering truly originates. 2. The monk and the tiger, savoring the present in the face of impermanence. Life often presents us with seemingly impossible situations, pushing us to the brink of despair. This next story, rich with allegory, offers a radical perspective on finding peace even in dire circumstances. Once, in a quiet mountain monastery nestled deep in the forest, lived a wise and peaceful monk. Every day, he would take long walks through the surrounding woods, meditating on the beauty of nature and the teachings of the Buddha. He found great peace in the solitude of the forest, connecting deeply with the present moment. One day, during his walk along a narrow mountain path, the monk suddenly heard a loud, frightening sound. A tiger's roar echoed through the trees. He froze, his heart pounding, and when he turned, he saw a large, fierce tiger charging toward him through the thick underbrush. The monk's first instinct was to run, and he did. He sprinted down the path, his robes billowing behind him as the tiger drew closer. Desperate, he saw a vine hanging down the side of a cliff. Without hesitation, he grabbed the vine and began to climb down, hoping to find safety below. As he descended, clinging tightly to the vine, he looked down, and his heart sank. Below him, another tiger was pacing at the bottom of the cliff, waiting for him to fall. He was trapped, no way up, no way down. The monk paused, dangling from the vine with one tiger above and another below. His situation seemed hopeless, but as he hung there, Suspended between the two tigers, something caught his eye. Growing out of the cliffside, just within reach, was a small wild strawberry plant. On the plant was a single, ripe, red strawberry. In that moment, the monk stopped thinking about the tigers, his fear, and his predicament. Instead, he reached out with one hand, carefully plucked the strawberry, and put it into his mouth. He bit into the fruit, savoring its sweetness. The taste was exquisite. For that brief moment, all that existed was the joy of the strawberry's flavor, sweet, fresh, and perfect. Despite the danger surrounding him, the monk found peace in that single, mindful moment. He had accepted that he couldn't change his circumstances, but he could still fully experience the present. The monk smiled, knowing that this fleeting taste of sweetness was a reminder of life's beauty, even in the most precarious of situations. The lesson. The story of the monk and the tiger teaches a profound lesson about mindfulness and being present in the moment. The two tigers represent the inevitable forces of impermanence in our lives, the past, the tiger above, representing what we're escaping, and the future, the tiger below, representing what we fear. We are often caught in a similar predicament, trapped between regret about what has been and anxiety about what is to come. The wild strawberry, however, symbolizes the simple joys of the present moment. Even when facing seemingly insurmountable challenges, there is always something to be grateful for, some small piece of joy that we can savor. The monk's ability to focus on the strawberry, despite the imminent danger, shows us that we can find peace and contentment by fully immersing ourselves in the now. Instead of worrying about the tigers in our lives, the past or the future, we can choose to focus on the beauty and sweetness of life right here, right now. This tale encourages us to embrace mindfulness and to enjoy the simple pleasures that life offers, no matter what challenges we face. It's a radical acceptance that life is fleeting, and true richness lies in the quality of our presence within each passing moment. 3. The two arrows, the source of true suffering. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the initial pain of an event is less impactful than the secondary suffering we inflict upon ourselves through our reactions? This profound teaching from the Buddha illustrates the critical distinction between pain and suffering. One day, the Buddha was sitting with his disciples in a peaceful forest clearing. A troubled disciple approached him with a question. "Master," he said, bowing, "I do not understand why we suffer so much in this life. Pain seems to follow us wherever we go. Why is this so? And how can we find peace amidst so much suffering?" The Buddha gazed at the disciple with kindness. "Let me explain," he said gently. "Imagine that a person is struck by an arrow. This arrow causes pain, and the pain is inevitable. This is the first arrow." The disciples nodded, understanding that the first arrow symbolized the unavoidable difficulties of life, physical pain, illness, injury, loss. But now, the Buddha continued, imagine that after being struck by the first arrow, the person is then struck by a second arrow. This second arrow does not come from outside, it is created by the mind. It is the anger, fear, frustration, or sorrow that follows the pain. This is the second arrow. The Buddha paused, letting his words sink in. "You see," he said, "while the first arrow is unavoidable, the second arrow is optional." The Buddha explained that when we experience physical or emotional pain, the first arrow, we often make it worse by adding a second layer of suffering with our mental reactions. We become angry, resentful, or anxious, and these emotions deepen the wound. Instead of accepting the pain, we resist it, and in doing so, we increase our suffering. When we are struck by the first arrow, the Buddha continued, we must recognize it for what it is, a natural part of life. But we must also recognize the second arrow. It is the arrow we create ourselves. Through mindfulness and understanding, we can choose not to let the second arrow pierce us. The disciple, beginning to understand, asked, "Master, how can we avoid the second arrow? How can we prevent our minds from adding to our suffering?" The Buddha smiled. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. When we feel pain, we can acknowledge it without judgment. We can accept that pain is part of life, but we do not need to dwell on it or create more suffering through resistance or negative thoughts. In this way, we can stop the second arrow before it strikes. The lesson. The story of the two arrows is a cornerstone of Buddhist psychological insight, teaching us a crucial distinction between pain, dukkha, the first noble truth, and suffering. The first arrow represents the inevitable discomforts of existence, physical pain, emotional hurt, loss, sickness, aging, and death. These are universal and unavoidable aspects of the human condition. However, the second arrow symbolizes the additional suffering we create for ourselves through our reactions to this pain, our anger, frustration, denial, resentment, and fear. The Buddha's teaching encourages us to cultivate mindfulness and acceptance. While we cannot control the first arrow, the initial event or sensation, we absolutely have the power to prevent the second. By observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, a key aspect of vipassana meditation, we can choose not to amplify the initial pain with our mental and emotional resistance. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent to pain, but rather recognizing that much of our suffering is self-imposed. By responding to pain with awareness, understanding, and compassion, both for ourselves and for the situation, we can significantly reduce our suffering and find a profound sense of peace. Even in the face of life's inevitable challenges, it's about learning to simply experience pain without becoming the suffering. 4. The parable of the mustard seed, the universality of loss. Grief can feel isolating, as if no one else could possibly understand the depth of our sorrow. This poignant parable illuminates the universal nature of loss and the path to acceptance. Once, long ago, there lived a young woman named Kisa Gautami. She was kind, compassionate, and devoted to her family. But her life took a tragic turn when her only child, a beloved son, fell ill and passed away. Overcome with grief, Kisa could not accept her son's death. She carried his lifeless body in her arms, wandering from house to house, desperately seeking someone who could bring him back to life. At each door, Kisa begged, "Please help me. My son is dead. Is there anyone who can cure him?" But everyone she approached turned her away, saying that there was nothing they could do. Her sorrow grew heavier with each step, and her heart ached more with every rejection. One day, Kisa's path led her to a wise elder who took pity on her and said, "Go to the Buddha. Perhaps he can help you." With a flicker of hope in her heart, Kisa Gautami hurried to the Buddha, who was known for his compassion and wisdom. She found him sitting calmly under a banyan tree, surrounded by his disciples. Falling to her knees, she placed her son's body before him and pleaded, "Master, please bring my child back to life. I cannot bear this pain." The Buddha looked at her with great compassion and understanding. He could see Kisa was deeply suffering, but he also knew that she needed to learn a profound truth about life and death. He thought for a moment and then spoke softly, "I can help you, Kisa, but first, you must bring me something. Go into the village and bring me a mustard seed." Kisa's heart leapt with hope. "Yes, Master, I will bring you a mustard seed," she said, her voice trembling with relief. But before she could leave, the Buddha added, "The mustard seed must come from a household that has never experienced death. If you can find such a household, bring the seed to me, and I will bring your child back to life." Kisa nodded eagerly and set off on her mission. She went to the first house in the village and knocked on the door. A kind woman answered, and Kisa explained her request, "Please, can you give me a mustard seed? But it must come from a home where no one has ever died." The woman looked at Kisa with sad eyes and said, "I am sorry, but my husband passed away last year." Kisa thanked her and moved on to the next house. Again, she made her request, but this time the response was, "I am sorry, but my mother passed away many years ago." House after house, Kisa Gautami knocked on doors, hoping to find one that had never known death. But at every house, she heard stories of loved ones lost, a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a child. As the day wore on, Kisa began to realize that death was not unique to her. It was a universal experience, one that touched every family. Finally, as the sun began to set, Kisa returned to the Buddha, empty-handed but with a new understanding. She knelt before him, her heart no longer filled with desperate hope but with acceptance. "Master," she said, "I could not find a single house that has never known death. Every family has experienced the loss of someone dear to them. Now I understand that death is a part of life, and no one can escape it." The Buddha nodded gently and replied, "Kisa, you have learned an important truth. Death is inevitable, and suffering comes to all who are attached to the things of this world. But by accepting the impermanence of life, you can find peace. Your grief was not unique, it is shared by all beings. This is the nature of existence. The lesson. The parable of the mustard seed teaches a profound lesson about the nature of life, death, and impermanence. Anicca, a central tenet of Buddhism. Kisa Gautami's overwhelming grief initially blinded her to the universal truth of death. She sought a magical reversal, refusing to accept the inevitable. However, through her poignant journey of seeking the mustard seed, she didn't find a cure for death, but rather a profound understanding of its universality. The Buddha's wisdom in this story reminds us that attachment to life's impermanence inevitably leads to suffering, dukkha. Only by accepting that all things, people, relationships, experiences, even our own lives, are temporary can we find peace in the face of loss. Grief and sorrow are natural human responses to death, but by understanding that death touches everyone, we can learn to let go of the rigid clinging that intensifies our pain. This shared experience of humanity, this universal law of impermanence, offers a strange and comforting solace. This story encourages us to embrace the inevitability of life cycles and to approach both life and death with wisdom, compassion, and acceptance. In doing so, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and find peace in the impermanence of all things. 5. The farmer and the horse, the neutrality of events. How do we truly know if something is good luck or bad luck? This insightful parable invites us to question our immediate judgments and embrace life's inherent unpredictability with equanimity. Once upon a time, in a small, quiet village, there lived a humble farmer. He was known by his neighbors for his hard work and calm demeanor. His farm was modest, and he had only one horse to help with all of his daily tasks. From plowing the fields to carrying heavy loads. Though he didn't have much, the farmer was content with his life. One day, his horse ran away. The farmer woke up to find that his stable was empty and the horse had vanished. His neighbors, hearing the news, rushed to his house to express their sympathy. "What terrible luck," they said. "How will you manage without your horse? This must be such a misfortune." The farmer, however, remained calm. He looked at his neighbors and simply replied, "Maybe." The neighbors were puzzled by his response. How could he be so indifferent to such bad luck? They shook their heads and returned to their homes, convinced that the farmer was in denial about his loss. A few days later, to everyone's surprise, the horse returned, but it didn't come back alone. It brought with it a group of wild horses from the mountains. Now the farmer had not just one horse but several. The neighbors heard the news and rushed back to the farmer's house. This time they were full of excitement. "How wonderful!" they exclaimed. "Now you have so many horses. What incredible fortune!" The farmer again looked at his neighbors, smiled calmly, and said, "Maybe." Once again, the neighbors were confused. Surely this was a stroke of good luck. But the farmer seemed just as indifferent as he was before. They wondered why he didn't seem more excited about his newfound wealth. A few days later, the farmer's son decided to try taming one of the wild horses. While riding the horse, he was thrown off violently and broke his leg. The injury was severe, and the son would be unable to help with the farm work for a long time. Hearing of the accident, the neighbors returned to the farmer's house once again. This time they were filled with sympathy. "What bad luck," they said. "Your son has broken his leg, and now he cannot help you. This is truly unfortunate." As before, the farmer responded with his usual calmness. "Maybe," he said. The neighbors were now thoroughly baffled by the farmer. Every time something significant happened, whether it seemed good or bad, he gave the same nonchalant response. They couldn't understand why he wouldn't react more strongly to the events in his life. A few weeks later, the country was thrown into turmoil. A war broke out, and soldiers came to the village to draft all the young men into the army. Many of the village's sons were taken away to fight in the war. But because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was not drafted and stayed home with his father. Once again, the neighbors visited the farmer. "How fortunate you are," they said, "because of your son's injury. He was spared from the war. What amazing luck." And once again, the farmer replied, "Maybe." The lesson. The story of the farmer and the horse teaches a profound lesson about the nature of events in life and how we perceive them. Directly addressing the Buddhist concept of equanimity, upekkha. What seems like misfortune may turn out to be a blessing. And what appears to be good luck may lead to unexpected difficulties. The farmer's calm and measured response, maybe, reflects his deep understanding that life is unpredictable, filled with constant change, anicca, and it is impossible to judge events as inherently good or bad in the moment. The farmer's wisdom lies in his ability to stay detached from the outcomes of life's events. He neither celebrates nor despairs because he understands that circumstances are constantly changing. What may seem like a blessing today could bring challenges tomorrow, and what feels like a loss today may lead to unforeseen benefits in the future. This story encourages us to approach life with acceptance and non-attachment. Instead of getting caught up in labeling events as good or bad, we can maintain a balanced perspective, knowing that life's twists and turns are often beyond our control. By doing so, we can find peace and equanimity regardless of the circumstances we face. In the end, the story reminds us that the future is uncertain, and only time will reveal the full impact of any event. The farmer's attitude teaches us to embrace life's ups and downs with grace and patience, accepting whatever comes with an open heart and mind, recognizing that all experiences are part of the path. 6. The Buddha and the Angry Man. The gift unaccepted. Have you ever felt the burning intensity of anger, only to realize that holding onto it harms no one but yourself? This powerful encounter with the Buddha reveals the true nature of anger and the freedom that comes from non-reaction. Once upon a time, while the Buddha was teaching a group of disciples in a peaceful forest, a man approached him with anger burning in his eyes. The man had heard about the Buddha's wisdom and teachings, but he felt threatened by the Buddha's influence over others. Filled with jealousy and resentment, he decided to confront the Buddha and insult him in front of his followers. As the Buddha sat calmly under the shade of a Bodhi tree, the man stormed up to him and began hurling insults. "You are nothing but a fraud," the man shouted. "Who do you think you are? You may pretend to be wise and enlightened, but you're just deceiving people." The Buddha remained completely calm and unbothered by the man's harsh words. His expression didn't change, and he didn't respond to the man's anger. Seeing the Buddha's lack of reaction only made the man angrier. He shouted even louder, "How can you just sit there acting like you're above everyone else? Do you think you're better than me? I refuse to respect someone like you." Despite the man's fury, the Buddha stayed silent and serene, simply watching him with compassion. Finally, after several minutes of shouting, the man grew exhausted. He had expected to provoke a response, but the Buddha's peaceful demeanor confused him. After catching his breath, the man demanded, "Why won't you say anything? Why won't you defend yourself? Don't you care what I think of you?" The Buddha looked at him with kindness and finally spoke, his voice soft and calm. "Tell me," the Buddha asked gently, "if someone offers you a gift, and you decline to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, puzzled by the question, thought for a moment before responding. "It would still belong to the person who offered it. If I don't take it, the gift remains theirs." The Buddha nodded. "Exactly. And in the same way, if you offer me your anger, and I do not accept it, then who does the anger belong to?" The man was stunned by the Buddha's words. He realized that his anger had not affected the Buddha at all. Instead, it remained his own burden to carry. The Buddha continued, "If I refuse to accept your insults and your anger, they fall back on you. You are the one who suffers from them, not me. I choose not to be troubled by your words. Instead, I choose peace." The man stood in silence, contemplating what the Buddha had said. He realized that his anger had consumed him, but it had no power over the Buddha, who remained unaffected by it. In that moment, the man understood that holding on to his anger only harmed himself, not the Buddha. Feeling ashamed, the man bowed his head. "Master, I see now that my anger has only caused me pain. How can I learn to be at peace as you are?" The Buddha smiled warmly, his compassion shining through. "Anger is like a hot coal. You pick it up with the intention of throwing it at someone, but in the process, you burn yourself. Let go of the coal, let go of your anger. Instead, practice mindfulness, compassion, and understanding. Through these, you will find peace." The lesson. The story of the Buddha and the angry man is a powerful teaching on the nature of anger, devesha, one of the three poisons in Buddhism, along with greed and ignorance. The Buddha's wisdom shows us that when someone tries to hurt us with their words or actions, we have the power to decide whether or not to accept that negativity. His metaphor of the unaccepted gift is brilliant. Anger, insults, and hatred only affect us if we choose to engage with them and allow them to penetrate our inner space. If we refuse to engage with someone's anger, and instead remain calm and peaceful, cultivating upekkha, equanimity, we protect our inner peace and allow the anger to remain with the person who created it. This story encourages us to practice non-reactivity, a key component of mindfulness. It's about not letting others' negativity disturb our own sense of well-being. Like the Buddha, we can choose to respond with compassion, karuna, and understanding rather than letting anger take hold of us. By doing so, we free ourselves from the burden of carrying anger and resentment, and we cultivate inner peace. Ultimately, the story reminds us that anger is a choice, and by choosing peace over anger, we empower ourselves to live with greater serenity and compassion, turning a potential moment of suffering into an opportunity for spiritual growth. 7. The Monk and the Teacup. Embracing impermanence to love more fully. How can we truly appreciate what we have if we're constantly afraid of losing it? This Zen story reveals a paradoxical truth. Accepting impermanence allows for deeper love and less suffering. In a quiet Zen monastery nestled in the mountains, a revered monk lived a life of deep contemplation and mindfulness. His students admired him for his wisdom, calm demeanor, and the way he embraced the present moment, never disturbed by the chaos around him. Every day the monk would sit in meditation, drink tea, and share lessons with his students. One afternoon during their usual tea ceremony, the monk held up a simple clay teacup and gazed at it for a long moment. The cup was beautiful in its simplicity, with a soft earthy color and a perfectly rounded shape. The students, curious about their master's silent contemplation, waited eagerly to hear what he had to say. After a few moments, the monk smiled and said, "This teacup is already broken." The students looked at one another in confusion. They could see clearly that the teacup was whole, undamaged, and perfectly intact. One of the younger students couldn't contain his curiosity any longer and spoke up, "Master, the teacup is not broken. It is perfectly fine. Why do you say it is already broken?" The monk, still smiling, placed the teacup gently on the table in front of him. "In my mind," he said softly, "this teacup is already broken. It may seem whole now, but one day, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps years from now, it will break. This is inevitable. When I understand that it is already broken, I can fully appreciate it as it is. Without clinging to it, I can enjoy drinking tea from it, knowing that its life is temporary." The students were silent, absorbing the weight of the monk's words. They realized that the master wasn't speaking only about the teacup, he was offering them a deeper lesson about life itself. The monk continued, "Everything in life is like this teacup. All things, no matter how beautiful or precious, are impermanent. We cannot hold on to them forever. When we understand that, we are free to enjoy life fully. Without fear of losing what we have, we can appreciate each moment, each relationship, each experience, knowing that it too will pass. And when it is gone, we will not suffer because we have already accepted its impermanence." One of the older students nodded thoughtfully and said, "Master, does this mean we should not love or care for things because they will one day be gone?" The monk shook his head gently. "No. It means the opposite. When we accept the impermanence of all things, we can love them more deeply. Because we are not holding on out of fear of loss. We love and appreciate them for what they are in this moment. We understand that they are part of the natural flow of life. In this way, we can live with a peaceful heart, unburdened by the attachment to things that are bound to change." The lesson. The Monk and the Teacup teaches a profound lesson about impermanence, anicca, and non-attachment, upekkha, core principles that lie at the heart of Buddhist practice. The monk's declaration that the teacup is already broken is not a statement of pessimism, but a radical acknowledgement of the inevitable truth that all conditioned phenomena in life are temporary. By accepting this fact deeply into our being, we free ourselves from the pain of rigid clinging and the suffering that arises when things change or disappear. This story encourages us to appreciate life's moments, relationships, and possessions with a profound sense of mindfulness, without clinging to them out of fear of loss. When we embrace the impermanence of all things, we paradoxically find that we can love more deeply, engage more fully, and live with greater peace. It's about holding things lightly, enjoying them fully in the moment, savoring their presence, and being prepared to let them go when their time comes. Non-attachment doesn't mean detachment from love or experience. Instead, it allows us to engage fully with life without being weighed down by the fear of loss. Ultimately, this story invites us to cultivate a peaceful heart by accepting the truth of impermanence and learning to cherish the present with grace and profound mindfulness. 8. The Buddha and the Robe. True generosity. What truly makes a gift valuable? Is it its material worth, or the intention behind it? This story illustrates the Buddha's profound understanding of true generosity and compassion. In ancient India, during the time when the Buddha traveled across villages and towns to spread his teachings, he often attracted a large number of followers. Many of them were moved by his wisdom and left their homes to become monks and disciples under his guidance. One day, while staying in a small village, a wealthy merchant heard about the Buddha's presence and decided to visit him. He was deeply inspired by the Buddha's teachings and wanted to offer him a gift as a token of his respect. The merchant brought a beautifully woven, luxurious robe made of the finest silk, richly adorned with intricate patterns. The merchant approached the Buddha, bowed respectfully, and presented the robe with reverence. "Lord Buddha," he said, "I wish to offer you this robe as a sign of my gratitude for your teachings." The Buddha looked at the robe and then at the merchant with a gentle smile. He sensed the merchant's sincerity and the desire to give. However, the Buddha lived a life of simplicity and was not interested in material wealth or luxuries. His needs were few, and he taught his followers to live in simplicity as well. "Thank you for your kind gesture," the Buddha said, "but I cannot accept this robe. It is far too extravagant for a simple monk like me. I am content with the robe I already wear." The merchant was surprised by the Buddha's response. "But Lord Buddha, I offer this robe out of respect for you. Surely you deserve the best that I can give." The Buddha, still smiling, replied, "If you truly wish to honor me, there is another way you can use this gift. Take this robe and offer it to someone who is truly in need, someone who lacks even the basic clothing to cover themselves. That would bring greater merit and joy." The merchant, realizing the Buddha's deep compassion for the poor, nodded slowly. He understood that the true essence of giving was not about offering gifts to those who already had enough, but about providing for those in need. "Thank you, Lord Buddha, I will do as you say," the merchant said. He took the robe and later he found a poor man in the village who was shivering in the cold with only rags to wear. The merchant gave the robe to the poor man, who was overjoyed and deeply grateful. The next day, the merchant returned to the Buddha and shared what he had done. The Buddha nodded approvingly and said, "You have done well, my friend. True generosity is not in giving to those who expect or do not need it, but in helping those who are in real need. By sharing your wealth with those who are less fortunate, you have brought true joy and compassion into the world." The lesson. The Buddha and the Robe is a timeless teaching on the true nature of generosity, dana, and compassion, karuna. It reminds us that the value of a gift lies not in its material worth, but in the intention behind it and the impact it has on those who genuinely need it. The Buddha's refusal to accept the luxurious robe underscores his teaching that material possessions do not bring lasting happiness or spiritual fulfillment. Instead, he skillfully guided the merchant to understand that true giving comes from a place of empathy and a desire to alleviate the suffering of others. This story encourages us to look beyond superficial acts of giving and to seek opportunities to make a real, meaningful difference in the lives of those who are struggling. It shows that acts of kindness, when directed toward those who need them most, can bring greater joy and a profound sense of purpose to the giver. Ultimately, the Buddha and the Robe is a powerful reminder that the essence of compassion lies in understanding the needs of others and responding to those needs with an open heart. By giving thoughtfully and selflessly, we can create a ripple effect of kindness that extends far beyond a single act, touching countless lives and cultivating a deeper sense of interconnectedness. 9. The Buddha tames the elephant Nalagiri. The power of loving kindness. Can a raging beast be calmed by anything other than force? This incredible story illustrates the boundless power of loving kindness, metta, even in the face of extreme hostility. During the time when the Buddha was residing in Rajagaha, a city in ancient India, his teachings were spreading widely, and more people were following his path of peace and enlightenment. Among those who were jealous of the Buddha's growing influence was Devadatta, his cousin and former disciple. who harbored resentment and desired power for himself. Devadatta sought to harm the Buddha in many ways. One of his most dangerous plots involved an elephant named Nalagiri. Nalagiri was known for his wild nature and great strength, and he was kept in the royal stables. Devadatta went to the elephant keepers and persuaded them to release Nalagiri into the streets when the Buddha was passing by, hoping that the wild elephant would trample and kill him. The day came when the Buddha was walking through the city with his disciples, teaching and spreading his message of compassion. Devadatta's men released Nalagiri, and the furious elephant charged through the streets, causing panic and terror among the people. The villagers ran in fear, and even the Buddha's disciples urged him to take shelter. But the Buddha remained calm and continued walking toward Nalagiri with a serene and fearless demeanor. As Nalagiri charged toward him, the Buddha stood still, emanating a powerful aura of loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna. He raised his hand in a gentle gesture of peace, focusing his mind on the deep compassion he felt for all beings, including the frightened and angry elephant. The Buddha's presence was filled with such calm and kindness that it had a profound effect on the raging animal. When Nalagiri came close to the Buddha, he suddenly stopped. The fierce anger in the elephant's eyes faded, replaced by a sense of calm. He bowed his head before the Buddha, who then gently stroked Nalagiri's head, speaking softly to him with compassion. The wild elephant knelt at the Buddha's feet, completely tamed and peaceful. Witnessing this miraculous event, the people of Rajagaya were astonished. They marveled at the Buddha's ability to turn a violent elephant into a gentle creature through the power of love and compassion alone. Even Devadatta's followers were humbled by this act and began to question their loyalty to him. After the encounter, the Buddha explained to his disciples and the people that loving kindness is a powerful force that can transform even the most aggressive beings. He taught that when we cultivate compassion within ourselves, we can overcome anger and hatred, just as he did with Nalagiri. The Buddha's teachings helped the people understand the importance of maintaining inner peace and compassion, even in the face of hostility. The lesson. This story emphasizes the extraordinary power of love, metta, and compassion, karuna, in overcoming aggression and fear. The Buddha's ability to calm Nalagiri demonstrates that true strength lies not in physical might or retaliation, but in a peaceful heart capable of transforming even the most difficult and hostile situations. It teaches us that when faced with anger or violence, responding with compassion and a calm demeanor can create harmony and understanding, bringing peace not only to others but also to ourselves. The story of the Buddha and Nalagiri inspires us to cultivate inner peace and apply the principles of loving kindness in our daily interactions. It shows us that by maintaining our own composure and radiating positive intentions, we can disarm hostility and create a more peaceful environment around us. This practice helps us develop patience and understanding, which are essential for relaxing and soothing the mind, even amidst life's fiercest challenges. 10. The parable of the raft, beyond the teachings. What happens when a tool has served its purpose? Do we cling to it, or do we wisely let it go? This profound parable from the Buddha illustrates the true relationship between spiritual teachings and ultimate liberation. One day, the Buddha was teaching his disciples about the nature of his teachings, the Dharma, and the importance of using it wisely. He used a simple, yet profound parable to illustrate how his teachings should be understood. The Buddha began by describing a man who found himself on the shore of a raging river. The river was deep, wide, and filled with dangerous currents, and the other side was peaceful and free of danger. This man wanted to cross the river to reach safety, but there was no bridge or boat in sight. So, he decided to gather some logs, branches, and leaves and tied them together to construct a raft. Using his strength and effort, he paddled across the river on this makeshift raft, eventually reaching the safety of the opposite shore. Once on the other side, the man thought to himself, "This raft has served me well. It helped me cross the river and reach safety. Now, should I carry this raft on my back and continue my journey? Or should I leave it behind, recognizing that it has fulfilled its purpose?" The Buddha paused and asked his disciples, "What do you think? Monks, should the man carry the raft with him after he has crossed the river? Or should he let it go?" The disciples replied, "He should leave the raft behind. Venerable Sir, it is no longer needed as it has served its purpose." The Buddha smiled and continued, in the same way. Monks, I have taught you the Dharma, which is like a raft. It is useful for crossing over the river of suffering and ignorance. But once you have crossed over, you should let go of the Dharma, not cling to it or become attached to it. The teachings are meant to be tools for liberation, not objects of attachment. He further explained, just as the man does not carry the raft with him once he has crossed the river, you too should not cling to my teachings rigidly. Use them to reach enlightenment and freedom from suffering, and then be willing to let go of even those teachings. Holding on to them after they have served their purpose can become a burden, just as carrying the raft would be. The lesson. The parable of the raft is a crucial teaching on the nature of the Dharma itself and the concept of non-attachment, upekkha, to even spiritual principles. It teaches us that the Buddha's teachings, or any spiritual guidance, are like a raft that helps us cross from the turbulent waters of suffering, dukkha, and ignorance, avidya, to the peaceful shores of enlightenment, nirvana. They are skillful means, upaya, tools, not ends in themselves. The common misconception is to cling to the teachings themselves, to memorize them, to dogmatically adhere to them, even after their purpose has been served. But the Buddha emphasizes that once we have achieved inner peace and understanding, once we have crossed the river, we must be willing to let go of rigid attachment to those teachings, remaining open, flexible, and truly free. This story encourages us to practice flexibility and avoid dogmatism. It reminds us that ultimate wisdom lies in knowing when to use something and when to let it go, helping us maintain a balanced and peaceful mind. It's about embodying the wisdom, not just reciting it. Thank you for watching, and may you always carry the peace of these stories within your heart. Join our community by liking and subscribing to Buddhist Story, where ancient wisdom meets modern mindfulness. Discover more stories that soothe the mind, calm the heart, and bring light to your everyday life. As a longtime researcher and practitioner of Buddhist philosophy, I want to add my personal reflections on the profound implications of these stories for our modern lives. The brilliance of the Buddha's teachings, encapsulated in these deceptively simple parables, lies in their timeless applicability. They aren't confined to ancient India or monastic settings. They are blueprints for navigating the complexities of our contemporary world. On the empty boat, we live in an era of hyper-personalization, where every perceived slight, every critical comment on social media, feels like a direct assault. The empty boat reminds us to pause and question our assumptions. Is the perceived attack truly intentional? Or is it merely an empty boat, an unintentional consequence? A projection of our own biases? Or simply a random occurrence? By practicing this kind of discernment, we can drastically reduce our emotional reactivity and find a wellspring of inner calm. It's about understanding that the world often isn't happening to us, but simply is. This shift in perspective is liberating. On The Monk and the Tiger, our modern lives are rife with tigers, financial anxieties, health scares, relationship conflicts, global crises. We are constantly caught between the tiger of the past, regret, guilt, and the tiger of the future, worry, fear. The strawberry represents the essence of present moment awareness, mindfulness. In a world obsessed with future planning and past analysis, the Buddha's message is radical. Find the sweetness now. This isn't about escapism, but about recognizing that genuine peace is only accessible in the present. Even if the external tigers are still roaring, the internal landscape can be one of profound tranquility. It teaches us that while we cannot control the inevitability of life's tigers, we can choose where to place our attention, on the fear, or on the singular, exquisite taste of the present moment. On the two arrows. This is perhaps one of the most practical and immediately applicable Buddhist teachings for contemporary mental well-being. Our society often conflates pain and suffering. We are taught to avoid pain at all costs, leading to a profound aversion to discomfort. The Buddha clearly differentiates. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering is optional. This is revolutionary. When we experience physical illness, a broken heart, or a professional setback, the first arrow, our conditioning often prompts us to add layers of blame, self-pity, anger, or despair, the second arrow. The consistent practice of vipassana, insight meditation, as taught by the Buddha, enables us to observe these reactive thoughts and emotions without identification. We can acknowledge, yes, this hurts, without adding, "And this shouldn't be happening to me. This is unfair. I can't stand it." This mindful observation, without judgment, effectively disarms the second arrow, allowing the initial pain to pass through us without becoming entrenched as chronic suffering. On the parable of the mustard seed, in our individualized modern society, grief can be incredibly isolating. Kisa Gautami's journey, though seemingly a futile search, was in fact a profound teaching on anicca, impermanence, and the universality of suffering, dukkha. When we realize that loss is not a personal curse but an intrinsic part of the human condition, shared by every single being, our personal grief can transform. It connects us to a larger tapestry of existence, fostering karuna, compassion, not just for others, but also for ourselves. This understanding allows us to release the rigid clinging to what was and embrace the natural cycles of life and death with a sense of shared humanity. Finding solace in our interconnectedness. On the farmer and the horse. This tale is a powerful antidote to our modern obsession with labeling and judging every event. In an instant gratification, outcome-focused world, we are quick to declare something good or bad. The farmer's maybe embodies upekkha, equanimity, a balanced and non-reactive mind. He understands that the true impact of an event can only be known in the fullness of time. A perceived misfortune today might lead to an unexpected blessing tomorrow, and vice versa. This perspective cultivates an incredible inner stability. By releasing our need to immediately categorize and react, we free ourselves from the emotional roller coaster of life's inevitable ups and downs. It's about trusting the larger flow of existence, even when the immediate currents seem turbulent. On the Buddha and the Angry Man. This is a direct masterclass in handling conflict and negativity in our interconnected world. In the age of online comments and instantaneous reactions, the temptation to engage with anger and insult is immense. The Buddha's metaphor of the unaccepted gift is profoundly empowering. It places the power squarely within our hands. We cannot control what others say or do, the gift they offer, but we absolutely control whether we accept it. By choosing non-reaction, by maintaining our inner peace, we prevent their negativity from disturbing our own well-being. This isn't passive aggression, it's an active choice of self-preservation and compassion. By not engaging with anger, we break the cycle of negativity, allowing the aggressor's gift to remain with them, eventually dissipating its power. This cultivates profound inner serenity and empowers us to be sources of calm, even in turbulent environments. On the monk and the teacup, our consumer-driven society encourages clinging to possessions, relationships, and experiences. The internet's vast archives create an illusion of permanence for memories and interactions. The broken teacup is a radical, yet compassionate, reminder of anicca, impermanence. Everything is temporary. This isn't meant to be depressing, but liberating. When we truly internalize that everything we cherish is already broken, in the sense that it will inevitably change or cease to be, we can love and appreciate it more fully in the present moment. Our love becomes free from the anxiety of loss. We cherish without clinging. This profound acceptance allows us to navigate life's inevitable losses with grace, understanding that sorrow is natural, but prolonged suffering from clinging is a choice. It helps us cultivate non-attachment, upekkha, not as cold detachment, but as warm, appreciative letting go. On the Buddha and the robe. In a world often driven by superficial gestures and performative generosity, this story reminds us of the true essence of dana, generosity, and karuna, compassion. The Buddha's refusal of the luxurious robe was a teaching in itself. True merit lies not in grand displays or in giving to those who have plenty, but in alleviating genuine suffering and meeting true need. It challenges our assumptions about what constitutes a valuable gift. A simple act, driven by profound empathy and directed where it can make the most difference, far outweighs any lavish offering given without such intention. This applies to our time, our attention, and our resources. It encourages us to look beyond what is expected and truly discern where our kindness can have the most impact, thereby cultivating a deeper, more authentic sense of purpose and connection. On the Buddha taming the elephant Nalagiri. In an increasingly polarized and confrontational world, this story offers a powerful vision of peace. Nalagiri represents not just external aggression, but also the untamed, wild elephant of our own minds, our uncontrolled anger, fear, and hostility. The Buddha's approach was not one of force, but of metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. He met aggression with an unwavering aura of peace. This teaches us that the greatest strength lies in our ability to maintain inner calm and radiate positive energy, even when faced with hostility. It's a reminder that violence begets violence, but compassion can disarm and transform. This radical approach encourages us to cultivate our own inner peace, recognizing that our state of mind can profoundly influence the environment around us. It's a call to be a beacon of calm in a chaotic world. On the parable of the raft, this is perhaps the most advanced and liberating teaching for any serious spiritual seeker. In our quest for wisdom, we often become attached to the very teachings, methods, or teachers that brought us solace. The raft symbolizes the Dharma, the path, the spiritual tools. They are invaluable for crossing the river of suffering. But once we reach the other shore, once we attain enlightenment or a profound state of inner freedom, the tools themselves are no longer needed. Clinging to them, becoming dogmatic, or making them an end in themselves becomes a burden, just like carrying a raft on your back after you've crossed the river. This teaching emphasizes flexibility, adaptability, and ultimate liberation from all concepts, even spiritual ones. It encourages us to be fluid, to embody the wisdom rather than merely intellectualizing it, and to recognize that true freedom means letting go of even the most cherished spiritual frameworks once they have served their purpose. The goal is not the raft, but the freedom of the other shore. Conclusion: be the light that illuminates yourself. The final words of Buddha Shakyamuni are profoundly empowering. Be the light that illuminates yourself. This isn't just a poetic phrase, it's the culmination of all his teachings. It's a call to radical self-reliance and the recognition of our inherent potential for wisdom. In a world that constantly encourages comparison, imitation, and following external authorities, the Buddha's message is a powerful counter-narrative. He warns against the foolishness of imitation, of becoming a mere shadow of another. You are born with boundless understanding, with an inner light. It's a light that needs to be uncovered, not acquired. Listen to the small voice, the silence within, and it will guide you. No one can truly lead you. No one can be a perfect model for your unique life. Because you are singular, irreplaceable. Your brilliance, your greatness, lies in your authenticity. Those who imitate become imposters, insincere, operating like machines. They might appear saintly to others, but deep down, they are shallow, artificial, losing touch with their true self. According to the Buddha, enlightenment is living in the inner light of your own consciousness, while ignorance is following others, imitating others, becoming a shadow. A genuine teacher creates real disciples, not followers. They throw you back to yourself, making you independent, because centuries of dependency have led nowhere. Only your inner light can become the sunrise. A false teacher fosters dependency. A true teacher desires your complete freedom. Ordinary people often shy away from this freedom, preferring dependency because it allows them to offload responsibility. But it is precisely the challenge of responsibility that cultivates wisdom. You must accept life with all its challenges, enter it without defense, and find your own path. Life is an opportunity, a challenge to find yourself. Fools choose shortcuts, believing they can simply observe another's achievement and imitate it. But imitation stifles intelligence. It needs a challenging life, a life willing to embrace risks and uncertainty. To truly emerge, and only your intelligence, your own awakening, can lead you to nirvana. Be the light that illuminates yourself, and you will become enlightened. Allowing others to lead and guide you forever keeps you foolish, causing you to miss out on the incredible treasures of life that are rightfully yours. Life is an incredibly wonderful pilgrimage, but only for those who are willing to truly seek it, illuminated by their own inner wisdom. Thank you for joining this profound exploration on Buddhist Story. If these insights resonated with you, please like and subscribe to our channel for more ancient wisdom illuminating modern mindfulness. May your journey be filled with peace, understanding, and the radiant light of your own awakening.